April 6th, 1994. The night sky above Kigali explodes in flame. A plane carrying President Juvenal Habyarimana of Rwanda and President Cyprien Ntaryamira of Burundi is struck by missiles. Seconds later, it crashes. No survivors. Within an hour, roadblocks rise across the capital. Lists are opened, and the killing begins. When investigators later examined what happened, one fact disturbed them most: the speed. Mass violence doesn't organize itself in minutes, so the question becomes, was this chaos, or was this a plan waiting for ignition? To understand the crime, we go back decades. After World War I, Rwanda became a trusteeship under Belgium, overseen by the League of Nations. Belgian administrators classified the population into Hutu, Tutsi, and Twa. Identity cards were issued. Tutsis were favored in governance and education. Hutus, the majority, were politically sidelined. Division became institutional. A detective looking at motive would underline this in red ink. When power is assigned by identity, resentment doesn't disappear. It waits. In 1959, a Hutu revolution forced hundreds of thousands of Tutsis into exile. By 1962, Rwanda became independent. Violence simmered. Then in 1973, Habyarimana seized power and founded the National Revolutionary Movement for Development. For 2 decades, he ruled unchallenged. But in 1990, a rebel force called the Rwandan Patriotic Front invaded from Uganda. Civil war began. Inside Rwanda, extremist ideology intensified. Militias formed, including the Interahamwe. Weapons were distributed. Radio broadcasts spread fear. The detective's margin note? Preparation. In August 1993, peace talks in Arusha, Tanzania, produced the Arusha Accords. A power-sharing government was proposed. For moderates, it was hope. For extremists, it was surrender. And extremists do not surrender quietly. Then came the plane crash. Who fired the missiles? Some investigations suggest Hutu hardliners seeking to sabotage peace. Others point toward elements within the RPF. The truth remains debated, but what followed is undeniable. Within hours, the Presidential Guard and militias began systematic killings. One of the first victims was Prime Minister Agathe Uwilingiyimana, a moderate Hutu. 10 Belgian peacekeepers were murdered the same day. The result? Belgian troops withdrew. The United Nations reduced its forces' mandate. To the perpetrators, the signal was clear. No one would stop them. Government radio instructed civilians to work. Roadblocks multiplied. Local officials handed out weapons. Killers were rewarded. Within 100 days, approximately 800,000 people were dead, mostly Tutsis, along with moderate Hutus. The RPF resumed its military offensive. By July 1994, Kigali had fallen. The genocide ended, but the mystery of its ignition remained. As the RPF gained control, more than 2 million Hutus fled into the Democratic Republic of the Congo and neighboring countries. Refugee camps became unstable zones. The region descended into further conflict. Justice followed years later. The International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda was established in Tanzania. For the first time since Nuremberg, genocide prosecutions took center stage. Convictions were secured, but justice could not reverse 100 days. So what truly caused the genocide? A missile in the night? Decades of engineered division? Extremist propaganda? International indifference? Perhaps the deeper mystery is this: how does ordinary fear become organized extermination? Because genocide doesn't begin with machetes. It begins with language, with labels, with leaders who convince a population that survival requires elimination. And when the spark comes, the fire spreads fast. This wasn't just a tragedy, it was a warning. And like all warnings, it was ignored.